From Showtime and A24.
What do you love most about Whitney?
Comes a new series unlike any other.
Well, where do I even start?
Academy Award winner Emma Stone.
I like how you fight for us.
Nathan Fielder.
Money doesn't really matter when it's about doing the right thing.
And Benny Safdie.
You guys are strong, right? At the end of the day, you're going to survive, right?
Next question.
New episodes of The Curse, streaming now on Paramount Plus, only with the Paramount Plus with Showtime plan.
Hey, it's Christine from Storyworthy. Today on the show, comedian DeAnne Smith talks about getting kicked out of her house by the Mexican federales.
Essentially, they were sitting us down. They were really angry. They were telling us that we had to leave. We had to get out of there. And they were saying, you've had too many loud parties, which really wasn't true. You leave garbage in the street, which really wasn't true. And we kept pressing them, they just kept saying, you just can't be here. You can't be here. It's not right. It's not good. And why? What's going on? And eventually, Mauricio's wife said something about, quote, our lifestyles and that not being compatible with a school. And I was like, okay, now I'm starting to get it together. Like, they want to kick us out because we're gay.
Today on the show, comedian DeAnne Smith talks about getting kicked out of her house by the Mexican federales. Stay close.
Hey, my name is DeAnne Smith, and you're listening to Storyworthy.
Welcome to Storyworthy. My name is Christine Blackburn, and I'm coming to you from Los Angeles, California. Whether you're a longtime fan of the show of over 10 years or you're a new listener, welcome to Storyworthy. I hope you guys enjoyed the show last week with Marcia Shandor. Marcia Shandor is also a new friend, DeAnne. This person, she lives up in Canada, actually, as well. So you're in Canada.
I am currently near Vancouver in British Columbia, yeah.
Okay, Marcia's on the other side. She's in Toronto, and she happens to be like this, truly expert storyteller, and she does it full on for a living, in that she teaches it to companies, big companies like Forbes and the BBC, and she'll do these big keynotes and stuff. So she's just a really interesting girl, and her show was about when she lived in Edinburgh, Scotland, right? She's going to college over there, and there was a snake in her dorm room.
Yikes.
So it's basically, snakes in a dorm room. We should have called the episode Snakes in a Dorm Room. It's really, really good. So go back, you guys, and listen to Marcia Shandor, really great girl. But not today, because today I'm here with DeAnne Smith, who is also somebody I didn't know well, but I follow you on Twitter. I love your Twitter, and I'm right in line with your humor, your politics. And so I thought, well, let me look at this person. And anyway, I think you're fantastic, DeAnne. And boy, you have been doing comedy for a long time.
Yes, the years have snuck up on me. It's all added up. I think it's been, I started in February 2006. So wherever that puts us, almost 15 years. Holy cow.
I was watching some of your stuff on YouTube going back to 2012. And you have this bit about 2-year-olds. About how 2-year-olds, can be like little brats and I'm trying to think of the bit because you were so funny. Little assholes, really.
Exactly. And I can't think of the bit either. Not only that it's 8 years old, but I haven't done proper stand-up, for real like I used to since March. So all of my jokes have left my head. But in the early days, I used to nanny and do comedy at night, and I loved it. I thought it was the greatest thing.
Yeah, no, I know some people that do that. That's a great combination. Yeah. But that's so interesting. But you've been doing Zoom shows and stuff, right?
Yeah, I've been doing Zoom shows. It's just nowhere near, when you're doing stand-up, you're doing it, at least 4 or 5 nights a week. Everything's so present of mind, and I find it so interesting. I don't know if it's pandemic brain fog or what it is, but I find it so interesting that I'm like, oh yeah, I had a joke about that. How did it go?
Well, the good news is, I think everybody's getting a break right now. We have to give each other a break because the process is different for everybody, as we have nothing to relate to when it comes to a pandemic. You know what I mean?
No.
This is my first pandemic. And so everybody is, kind of doing their own thing and finding their own path. And I feel really bad for some of the people that are isolated, that are especially seniors. This is a really tough time for them. And also the people that are ill, obviously. But for myself, I have a daughter and she's 13. And so that keeps me, you know what I mean? It's the activity and she's around all the time because now she's going to school in the bedroom. So it keeps me, I don't know, I feel grateful to have the company. And you have company because you and your girlfriend, you just left Los Angeles like less than 2 weeks ago and you just decided to go north.
Yes. This could be a bit of an interesting story in its own right. We'll keep it very short. But so I was long distance dating this girl from New York. And we kind of met online. And then she came to visit me in LA in January for a week. And we were like, oh, okay, this is really something. And then back in March, when we believed, I mean, we weren't keeping up with the news. So there was a time in March where we believed that the idea was everybody stay home for 2 weeks and then it will be fine. She was like, flights are really cheap right now. I'm just going to grab a flight. I'll come quarantine with you for 2 weeks. And, when else will we have a chance to do this with our regular lives so busy? So she came out in March and flash forward. She ended up kind of accidentally moving in. She came out with a carry-on. And then all of a sudden, next thing we knew, we're like been living together in my 1-bedroom tiny little spot in LA.
Did you get stuff shipped out? Did she ship her stuff out?
So she eventually packed up her apartment in New York. She had a friend pack up everything via FaceTime and ship it out. She got to look at her stuff for about a month, and then we put it back in storage in LA and packed the car and came up to near Vancouver. We're going to move to Vancouver when we're out of quarantine in a couple of days.
Vancouver, I've never been there, actually. I kept thinking, I've never vacationed there because I kept thinking I'll work there. You know what I mean? I'll shoot something there. Yeah. There'll be something, there'll be a reason to go up there. And it has never happened for me, but I understand it is one of the prettiest cities in the world.
It really is. And I mean, it should be because it's also known as one of the most expensive cities in the world. So it's just, one of those rare places where you get ocean and mountains. Just the landscape is absolutely gorgeous.
And
the
it's
weather,
just so clean, right?
Yeah. I mean, Canada's relatively clean, I think, compared to a lot of American cities. And the weather for Canada is like, the mildest winter you could possibly get this far north. So that's a selling point too, I think.
Interesting. But Vancouver, there's a lot of skiing, so that's just outside the city then.
Yeah. And tons of things shoot here.
I know, because they go across the border and they shoot a lot of non-union stuff. And it's, they'll do like 20 Hallmark movies in 3 months.
Yeah, exactly.
All at the same time.
Yeah, I'm always seeing Canadian friends if ever I happen to catch one of those movies. I'm like, oh, there's Pat Thornton. Oh, there's that guy. Yeah.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
How did you guys choose that? Who made that choice?
Well, it was kind of my idea. I had been living in Canada for a really long time, so I just made the move to LA in early 2020 after a lot of pressure from my manager and a lot of people, they're like, you have to be in LA, you have to be in LA. And I was like, okay, so I did it.
So you gave LA 8 months.
I mean, barely, because I was traveling in January, February, like working. And then I settled it in March, really, to be like, okay, now I'm here in LA. Let's make this happen.
Wow.
The pandemic.
So you never really got to do the comedy circuit in LA?
Not too much. I mean, whenever I've visited town, I've jumped on a few stages and, I know some people and I know a little bit of the scene that way, but I haven't yet really given it a fair shake. Maybe when all of this calms down, I'll have another chance.
Well, that's the thing. You have choices. And I often think like I could take my daughter and Alabama and I could go to Hawaii. And I'll still do my shows and I'll still do my podcasts and I'll do my Zoom show and Bama can go to school and we'll be in Hawaii. Like, what the hell? Why don't I do that?
Why haven't you done that?
Well, her dad lives about a block away. He wouldn't care for that.
Okay. Yeah, there's always reasons. It took a lot. It took a lot for me to even kind of get motivated to get out of LA because I had just moved there. I loved it. I loved the weather. As much as I could enjoy, I did. And but just having like packed everything up and put it away, now that we're here, I'm like, okay. I'm very much present wherever I am, but it takes a lot of momentum to get moving sometimes.
So where is your family or parents?
So they're all over the place. My mom passed away about 5 years ago. My dad is in a nursing home in upstate New York. My sister's in Philadelphia. And my sister-in-law and her kids are in LA.
Wow. Yeah. Wow, you really do have people all over. So do you have nieces and nephews then in LA?
Yeah, I did. And so that was really fun. We were able to visit them about once a week, and we do like outdoor distance hangs. So they're 10 and 12. We found a lot of creative ways to connect, without getting
That's
too
so
close.
Sweet. Yeah, because you can still hike and play tennis or whatever. I play a lot of tennis, so that is the perfect social distance sport. It really is.
Yeah, it really is.
And now, like my friend Cynthia and I are playing today at 3, but people, like, it says on like the rules on the tennis courts now, it says that you're supposed to mark your balls and only pick up your balls. Come on.
That's a lot.
I'm not going to put the ball in my mouth. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like, no, but seriously, that's if you really want to social distance properly. They're saying, you have your own racket and then the opponent has their racket and you just touch your balls.
Yeah, just touch your own balls
As
is
it
a
were.
generally good rule.
Yeah, that's the name of my next album, by the way. Touch your own balls.
Stick to your own balls.
Anyway, I'm really excited to hear your story because it's very specific today, of course, getting kicked out of my house by the Mexican federales. And like I said to you earlier, when I hear federales, I think of Willie Nelson and the song from Pancho and Lefty. The song called Pancho and Lefty, yes?
I don't know the song, but you sang a snippet of it earlier. It sounded beautiful.
You're such a Canadian. How do you not know Pancho and Lefty? Come on. Anyway, so I'm assuming you're down in Mexico in this story. Is that
Yes.
true? Tell me that. Okay, good.
I mean, it would be even crazier if the Mexican federal police just kicked me out of a house in Vancouver.
That's what I'm saying. It'd be way too much. It'd be like our friends in the South, our friends in the North, and too much. By the way, up in Vancouver or where you are now, what do they call them? Are they police? Are they bobbies?
Mounties.
They're Mounties.
Yeah, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police.
Okay. Do they have to be mounted? I mean, not all police are on horseback, are they?
No, not at all.
Do they have cars?
They have cars and they have bikes. I don't know. I haven't spent so much time in Vancouver, but I can tell you Toronto in the summertime and Montreal in the summertime, they're on bikes.
Do you ever kind of giggle when you see a cop on a bike? Like,
Always. And they always...
I don't know
They always
why.
have the gear. They have the gear too low usually, and they're just like their legs are like pedaling frantically. It's never correct. They just
It's
always
never,
look like,
it's never the athletic policeman riding the bike.
Yeah.
Or it just always looks kind of funny. Like they'll be riding and then like they're supposed to be all tough, and then they've got on, there's a gun on their belt and, duct tape or a walkie-talkie. And then they like will stand up on the bike as they go on around a curve. And I'm like, what are you, 12?
Yeah.
You shouldn't even have a gun. Look at you.
like pedaling dirt bikes. Like, this is the best summer ever.
It's cute, but it's also, I don't know. Sometimes I think the cop in a car has more. But listen, on a horse, what do I know?
Horses are kind of scary. I mean, they're imposing.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
are. I don't think you can I don't think at all that you can make a horse attack somebody. Could you? It's not like a get 'em. You get a dog or a lion. Am I right?
You seem, I mean, listen, I'm thinking a horse could trample someone. Probably the worst way to get a horse to attack someone would get them to poop on or near them. That to me seems, the back end of the horse seems to me the most dangerous.
My brother always used to say, I'm not riding a horse, honey, because they bite and they kick. That's it.
Yeah.
I don't know if they bite and kick.
I mean, you wouldn't want to get kicked by one, but I don't think they're going out of their way to bite and kick.
And the Mounties in Canada, they're not using the horse as a weapon.
No. But let's not give them
kidding.
any ideas,
I'm
we've all
I'm just getting clarity.
Yeah.
By the way, do you miss the airplane travel? Because you really have gone all over the world doing festivals. I've read you've been in the Melbourne Festival in New Zealand, so Winnipeg, and you've been all over the place. So I was just wondering, do you miss that?
I haven't missed it, but it's been unusual. I realized I've never, in 15 years of doing comedy, or even my whole adult life, really, I'd never been this stationary as I've been during the pandemic. I'd never spent so many consecutive nights in my own bed.
Right.
So that's been kind of strange.
It's nice.
I did just pick up a gig in Toronto with Just for Laughs in December. So I'll be getting on a plane and I think that will be interesting to know, like, just how does it feel? Have I missed it? I think it'll be really trippy to be in an airport again.
It'll be worth
again.
it. It'll be worth it because that's a big festival. That's really exciting. Okay, so what are you going to be doing with your frequent flyer miles? Like, what are you doing with them now? Is there a catalog you can go through, or can you get jewelry?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a really good question because I am not good at those sorts of games at the best of times. I resent that we as adults have to play them. I'm like, ugh, okay, yes, drugstore. I do have your, quote, shopper's points. What? Ugh. I hate that, but I do halfway participate, and I have racked up so many frequent flyer points, and I've been saving them for I don't even know what, and now I really don't know. I don't know what's going to happen to them.
It's kind of cool. You will be able to select some cool prizes, as it were. But I know what you mean about the pettiness that people get into and the games they play. It's so nerve-wracking. And I have my older sister. This is years ago. She's a lawyer. She has the most money in the family. And she would save Snickers wrappers because if you have 10 Snickers wrappers, and by the way, who's eating candy randomly, then you could send it away with at that time, a 40-cent stamp to get $1. And I'm like, you're a lawyer, man. Like,
some
get
people,
a grip.
Yeah.
It's a game. They think they're winning the system, but I think they're wasting their time. I think there's like a quality of life to be taken.
I'm with you on that. But I also think potentially like a lawyer's mind, someone who is paying attention to detail and who is across it in terms of like all the little loopholes and the little,
tricks.
The tricks and the asterisks. I can see how those things would go together.
Yeah, it's too much for me. It's
me
too
too.
much. By the way, I had somebody on the show once. Maybe you know her. She's really talented. She's a cartoonist and a comedian, Mo Welch.
Oh, yeah, I know Mo.
Okay, so Mo tells this story on Storyworthy about her girlfriend collecting obsessively these yogurt points. It's all about eating yogurt on a certain day, and you spin a wheel, you get double points, and if you do that, you get free yogurt on Friday, and every other Tuesday they have a this and that. And one day she walked in and she's like, you don't get it. I'm going to have free yogurt the rest of my life. You really Google Mo Welch and Mo Welch and Storyworthy. It's darn worth a listen because she's funny, and she has a new baby. She's a beautiful little baby now.
Oh, that's great! I actually didn't know that. That's so awesome.
Yeah, a little tiny girl, so sweet. You find her on Twitter, you'll see she puts it up now and then. The baby.
Oh,
anyway,
so
you guys, it's super fun. Anyway, I'm excited DeAnne Smith is here, you guys, today. Like I said, I just met her, and I know it's going to be a great story. But before we get to DeAnne's story, I wanted to remind you guys that this Friday, December 4th, is the brand new Story Smash, the storytelling game show, now live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Friday night at 7 p.m. Pacific time. And it's just like the game show we've been playing at the Improv for the last 3 years and now over the last 6 months during the pandemic. But now we're opening it up for the whole world to see. DeAnne, I had this idea, right?
Yes.
At the beginning of the pandemic, I want to still entertain. I want to do stuff. But I don't want to just give it to Facebook. I don't want to just dilute my product. And, I don't really like Facebook and all that. But you know what? I did it on my own for 6 months via Eventbrite and Zoom webinar and these different places I had to pay. And you know what? At the end of the day, I want the biggest audience I can get.
Yeah.
That's what I want. And so I have been making it more complicated to somehow elevate it like I have on really great people, so you guys should take that extra step. It is true. However, I did it that way for 6 months. Now I'm going to do it this way for 6 months. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's worth trying everything out. This is it's a bold new world.
It really is. It's like the Wild West, and may as well try. Yeah. And also I'm moving to Hawaii. Okay. You guys,
Alabama in Hawaii.
yeah, that's right. All right, you guys, she's here right now. DeAnne Smith, you heard her. She is a Canadian Comedy Award winner, and she's performed, in just so many festivals and repeatedly, like Just for Laughs, you were talking about, you're going back there, and at Just for Laughs 42. What do you mean by that?
Oh, that's a new one they started doing. It's maybe, I don't know how old it is, maybe 5 years or more. They started doing that one in Toronto in September. So they just invite 42 acts. That's kind of the hook of that one.
Very cool. Very cool. I like that. And then you've been at the Winnipeg Comedy Festival, the Melbourne International Comedy Festival, New Zealand, Edinburgh, Iceland. Iceland. Was that great? Was it fun?
It was great, and full disclosure, the Iceland Comedy Festival was really just my friend Rockvi who invited me up and then called it the Iceland Comedy Festival.
Isn't that brilliant, though? But
it's a very tiny place. That's the thing. Iceland is amazing that way.
Yeah, why not? Do it. Yeah, do it. That's awesome. Did you see the lights up there? Were the lights going on?
No, I was there in September, a little early for that phenomenon, but I would love to.
The Northern Lights or something, right? Mm-hmm. That's what they call it, yeah. And then here in the United States, you've been on Last Comic Standing and The Late Late Show. Here in the U.S. as well as in Canada, Australia, and the U.K. Holy cow. That's amazing. Your video, Straight Men Step Your Game Up, has over 46 million views. That is impressive.
Yeah, that's a pretty cool thing. And that was a Facebook phenomenon. We were talking about Facebook earlier. So I recorded that, I think in 2016 at the Winnipeg Comedy Festival. And normally sets that we did there, they wouldn't make it beyond Canada. You know, they go up on Canadian networks, people see them, that's the end of it. But that year was the first year ever that Winnipeg started putting out some clips. And they popped it up on their Facebook, and I think through CBC Comedy or something like that. And it just caught on. It was, 4 years ago. It was a little before people were so public about kind of, how men need to do better and try harder. And so I had this little 4-minute bit about how easy it was to impress my girlfriend because until me, she had only dated men. And that little sentiment just really caught on and people were sharing it around. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really funny. So the video, the 4-minute video is what has had over 46 million views.
Yeah, because people were just spreading it among their friends. I think they, at that point, I think some people were just like, what? Like, you can say this? It was relatable to some people, like other lesbians who kind of knew what I meant from dating, like, formerly straight girls and I think among straight women themselves, they were like, oh my God, like, this person's really giving it to men and it's funny to watch.
That's awesome. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And you have a half-hour special right now on Netflix that we can all watch. It's called Gentleman Elf. What is that name? What is happening?
Yes. Okay, so that's part of a series called Comedians of the World, which came out in early 2019. So if you want to see it, you should search Comedians of the World and then look under Canada, and I'll be the first one up under Canada. So they gave, I think it was 46, 47 different people all over the place, half-hour Netflix specials. And I called mine Gentleman Elf after a bit that I do about gender. And we were talking earlier about my pandemic brain and my lack of memory at the moment, so I can't remember all the jokes in there, but it was essentially just about how I identify. It was kind of like, not as a woman, not as a man. I just kind of go by, Gentleman Elf. I had this whole string of goofy things that I called myself.
You're so funny.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun with it. The idea was that I was like in the shampoo aisle having a breakdown because I couldn't identify with any of the over the top kind of female, feminine types of names. Neither the male sorts of names when it comes to being like hyper masculine with shampoo, like icy hurricane fire truck or whatever. So that's the start of that bit. And that's in the special. If you want to actually hear jokes, check that out.
And you guys can find DeAnne over at their website, DeAnneSmith.com. It's DeAnne Smith.com. And at the Twitter page, which is one I found you at, and that's at DeAnne_Smith. All right, you guys, wherever you are, put your hands together for DeAnne Smith.
The year is approximately the year 2000. I was living in San Cristobal de las Casas in Chiapas, Mexico. And my girlfriend, living with my girlfriend at the time who worked at an NGO, I was teaching English. And it was, at that time, it was like notoriously difficult to find a place to live if you were like a white foreigner, because a lot of the locals kind of assumed that you were working for NGOs, which a lot of us white foreigners were. And they kind of assumed you were sympathizing with like the indigenous people and that movement, which we were. And there was so much tension in that town. It was in 1994, and this is, I don't know all the history here, but in 1994, this group, the Zapatistas, had taken over San Cristobal de las Casas and a few other towns around there right after NAFTA was passed, and they were like a band of indigenous people standing up for themselves. So that was relatively in recent history. The whole place was classified as a low-intensity war zone at the time. There was a ton of tension. So my girlfriend and I lived in a little spot behind the English school where we both had part-time jobs. So in order to get to our house, you'd walk through the school, through the classrooms, to a little courtyard in the back. And around the courtyard, there was like one big room, which was kind of our bedroom, living room, everything room. There was a bathroom on the other side of the courtyard and a kitchen on another side of the courtyard. So to get anywhere there, you had to like walk outside, which when it was nice was lovely. But in the winter, when it was cold and it was rainy and drizzly, it was like, oh, to get out of your warm bed and have to cross the courtyard just to go to the bathroom was really something. But at the same time, like, you know, you'd look up at night and see so many stars. It was such a beautiful place to be. San Cristobal's in a valley surrounded by mountains. And we had a pretty cool little living situation. Like in the courtyard, we had a fire pit. We'd have friends over once in a while. You know, all of our friends were like hippie types and, you know, NGO workers. And we had our hookup. We'd have pot back there, you know, a little bit of marijuana. This will factor in later in the story.
So wait, what is the NGO again?
NGO stands for non-governmental organization. And I don't remember which one my girlfriend worked at, but essentially just, you know, the sort of phenomenon where white people go to other countries to aid different organizations, and basically everybody just sympathetic to the indigenous causes and indigenous people and working with them.
And you become, when you are an NGO, you become, you know, friends with
that's it.
expatriates from all over
so
the
many
place.
expats.
Do you know what I mean? And so you bond.
Of varying levels of sanity, let's say, as well. Like, you know, some people...
Yeah, because some people are running. Some people are
some
finding
people
themselves. Some people are often in transition.
Exactly. And yeah, this could go... It was a very interesting place to live. And we made so little money working there relative to the economy, though. But I remember my friends would joke around because we made like, you know, maybe $2.50 an hour teaching English, which was like 25 pesos, which in that economy wasn't the worst. You know, you could get a meal at a restaurant for 25 pesos. But my friends used to be like, oh, so you're like working in Mexico? Do you want me to like send you $10 a week? Like I could just sponsor you, which was essentially, you know, our salaries anyway. But and in the courtyard in our house, we had chickens that had just kind of come with the place. They belonged to the people that owned the school. So we had all these little chickens. One I fell in love with, this chicken with a little limp, this little light brown guy that we called Sicky very creatively, just because she had a limp. And I was vegan at the time, so the occasional eggs that she would lay would be the only eggs that I would eat. And it seemed safe to me as a vegan because I was like, I see this chicken, I see that I'm caring for her. She's in no way, you know, stressed or abused. I feel safe that I could eat this egg. So we would do that. We had a little cat back there as well. This is going to factor in, a little cat that we called Macy after Macy Gray. There were so many animals running around there. There's a million stories I could tell about that. And Macy and Sicky, our cat and our chicken, were really good friends because we got Macy as a tiny kitten. So she was always afraid of the chicken. She'd like kind of stalk through the grass as if she was going to pounce on her. And then the chicken would just turn her head and Macy would be like, yeah, you like jump up and run away. So they got to the point that they were friends, like one of those like unusual friendship videos you'd see of animals. So we're chugging along back there. Everything's going great. We have a nice little setup and we're teaching English and we are young and carefree. We're smoking pot with our friends. We're having a great time back there. And then one day, we lived there for a few months. One day, the owner, I remember his name was Mauricio, but I don't remember his wife's name. They very seriously like had to sit us down to talk to us about something. And my girlfriend spoke really good Spanish at the time. I was brand new there, so my Spanish was really broken. I was still piecing it together. But essentially, they were sitting us down. They were really angry. They were telling us that we had to leave. We had to get out of there. And they were saying, you know, you've had too many loud parties, which really wasn't true. You leave garbage in the street, which really wasn't true. And we kept pressing them, like, you know, they just kept saying, you know, you just can't be here. You can't be here. It's not right. It's not good. And why? What's going on? And eventually, Mauricio's wife said something about, quote, our lifestyles and that not being compatible with a school. And I was like, okay, now I'm starting to get it together. Like, they want to kick us out because we're gay. It's taken them months, apparently, to piece this together. Through this conversation, it became clear that until then, I don't know how they figured it out, but like, they had thought we were sisters, apparently, which was insane. We looked nothing alike. We were just white people of the same age. For them to think we were sisters, we weren't trying to hide anything, but also it was like, what are we, the creepiest sisters ever? Like, you've seen us holding hands? Like, this is just wow. So, we're feeling really like wronged, of course, and hard done by that we're getting kicked out of our house for being gay. But at the same time, it's like, okay, well, if you don't want us here, we don't want to be here. We will find a new place to live. But like I said, it was notoriously difficult to find a place to live as white people in San Cristobal at that time. So we said, just give us a little bit of time and we'll get out of here. So we made some calls that week. We ended up calling these two girls that were looking for a roommate and had a room open. And we told them, through like broken Spanish on the phone, we were telling them who we were, what we were about. We kind of needed a place urgently. And we said, we have a little cat. And we were calling our cat Gata as we were speaking to them. Gato is the Spanish word for cat. And we thought we'd be cute, just add a little A at the end to indicate that our cat, was a female, which apparently no one uses that language. But we were like, oh, we have a little Gata. And, don't worry. She's not very loud. She's not messy. She's been with us for a few months. We could get rid of our little Gata, but we don't want to leave her on the street. We really find, we're really attached to her. And they became like increasingly horrified as we're talking to them about our little Gata. And we couldn't figure it out. We're like, what's so wrong about having, like, maybe they're allergic. Like, what's their issue with having a cat? And then they cleared it up for us. It became clear that gata is apparently a really offensive way to refer to a maid or like a housekeeper that you may have or someone who works in your house. So there we were being like, we're kind of urgently need to move in. This is our situation. We have like, don't worry, we have this like little housekeeper, but she's not very loud and she's not very messy and she'll just stay in her room and she'll never bother you. And so thank God, yeah, you can pet her. Thank God they told us what that was all about. So about a week to the day after we sat down with Mauricio and his wife, I can't remember all this because it was 20 years ago, but they must have left us a note. We didn't have cell phones then. We didn't even have a refrigerator in our house. We didn't have anything. If we wanted to take a shower at that place, we had to plan like an hour in advance. You had to literally like light a fire under the water heater, get that going, and then like maybe an hour later you could have some warm water. So they must have left us a note because I remember being at a payphone. We gave them a call to say, we're working on getting out of here. It's been a week since you told us we have to leave. We haven't sorted it all out. We need a little bit more time. And they were, really inflexible, immovable. They started threatening us. They were really upset that we hadn't found a new place to live. So I think they said, we're coming over right now. We're going to kick you out of there or whatever. So we were like, okay. We started panicking. I cannot remember exactly why we thought this was a good idea, but I do remember that we felt like, we felt hard done by. We felt like they weren't treating us right. And we decided that we were going to, at the very least, if they're kicking us out of this place, we're going to take some stuff with us. So I remember we were like, we're going to take some chairs from the school. They were just wooden chairs. There was nothing special about them. It's just that we literally had nothing. Like I said, we were making $2.50 an hour. I don't know why we thought this was a good idea, but we had some friends across the street. And we started moving chairs from their school over to our friend's house. And we're like, you need to hang on to this for us before they get back over here. I don't know why we thought this was a good idea, but we were going across the street with chairs. I think we moved like 4 chairs over. And then on our way back, we're walking back from our friend's house to the school where we lived behind. And we see a Mexican federal police car parked outside, lights flashing. And at the doorway, we see like Mauricio, 2 Mexican federal police, and 2 other men that we don't know who they are. They're not in uniforms or anything. And I remember that moment to this day. Like the blood drained out of my body. It was like everything was in slow motion. We had marijuana back there. We didn't know that people were coming over to our house necessarily. So I know that we had like maybe a joint lying around. We had stuff. Wow. And if there was one thing that we both knew about being in Mexico, and that was drilled into us by pretty much everybody, was that like, if you get caught with drugs in Mexico, the U.S. government will not help you out. This is one area where you just really shouldn't be messing around. So I had this vision of like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to spend the rest of my life in a damp prison cell now. This is what, and I remember my girlfriend turned to me, Jody, and she was like, she goes, in dead seriousness, she was like, let's not go back. We don't have to go back. I was like, all of our stuff is there. Our passports are there. Like, we have to go back. But there was this moment where we're just like, I guess we're just on the run now with the clothes on our backs. Like, what are the police doing at our house, right? So we went in, we gave everybody a quick hello. Jody was there at the front talking to the people, and I just ran to the back, grabbed whatever drugs we had in the house, which was just marijuana, but grabbed the marijuana, put it in a backpack, ran back out the street. I must have looked crazy to everybody because I was just like, oh, hey, fellas, how's it going? Ran in, got the stuff, ran back to our friends across the street and dropped that off. Like, hey, you have to hold on to this stuff for us too, please. They were like, okay, what's going on? Get back there. By the time I'm back there, it's like, this is how naive I was at the time. I didn't yet know how corrupt Mexico can be in general. Not always, but in general, you know. I was so young and so white that I'd always grown up with narratives of the police, you know, as helpers. So here I am trying to explain to the cops. I'm like, you know, we're, in my broken Spanish, we're actually kind of glad you're here because this guy's trying to illegally kick us out of our house. And by the way, it probably wasn't illegal. There were probably no protections against gay people in housing at that time. I'm like, this guy's trying to kick us out of our house. And it took me a really long time. I mean, we were speaking to them for probably like an hour. It took me a really long time to piece it together because they weren't coming out right and saying it, that these are just his friends. Like, they are here to intimidate us, and they're not here to help. They're not here to negotiate. They're not here to bargain or figure it out. They're just here to tell us to get the fuck out of this house, right? So it turns out the two unnamed guys that were there were like changing the lock on the front door. You know, once we figured that out, we were kind of like, oh, we have our friend, the lawyer, Alvaro, we're going to give him a call. And that got them all very scared for a minute until they realized that Alvaro, our friend, the lawyer, was actually Colombian. So he had nothing to do with their laws, that they were all, fine. Like, he came over at some point. He was really scared for us because he was like, Jody had run out to the payphone to call him, and he was like, what? There's like 5 men that you don't know in your house, like trying to kick you out of the house. You guys got to get out of there. Because like I said, tensions were high at that time, and women and white women as well were being kidnapped off the street. Like all sorts of things were happening where it was like actually a dangerous situation. But the fun part kind of comes in where we're sitting there, we're trying to negotiate, we're trying to figure it all out. And at some point, Mauricio's like, and what about the chairs? Like, there used to be, he's looking in this classroom like, there were some more chairs in here. Where are the other chairs? Which we had, for some reason, decided we needed to steal. And I just took a page out of my friend Gretchen's book. I'd seen her do this in high school. I just decided to bold-face lie. It was the only way to do it. And listen, we've all seen this as well now in the U.S. government. Sometimes the boldest lie, as audacious as you can be, people just don't know what to say back to you. So I was like, I don't know what chairs. I have no idea what you're talking about. I've never seen any chairs. My friend Gretchen in high school had a big party. Her parents were out of town. She had a big party. And I don't know if you'll probably remember, younger listeners won't, but do you remember like decorations, or kind of from the 70s, 80s, like giant wooden spoon and fork that would be on the wall in a kitchen?
Yeah,
like
they still have that, like at Ross Dress for Less.
Yeah, like a at least 3 foot huge, like wooden spoon, wooden fork. Gretchen had this big party. Someone had taken off with the spoon, you know. Her parents came home and they were like, where's the spoon that used to be on the wall? The giant wooden spoon that goes right next to that giant wooden fork that is still on the wall. And Gretchen was like, I don't know. What spoon? I don't remember a spoon. I don't remember there ever being any spoon here. I don't know what you're talking about. Meanwhile, there's like an outline in the wallpaper where the giant
by the
spoon
fork.
used to be. Yeah, so I tried the spoon and fork thing on the chairs. I don't know what chairs you're talking about. And thank God we deflected that. At the end of the day, I'm realizing this story is rambling. I haven't told it in a long time, and there's a lot of pieces to it. But at the end of the day, we were there with them for a long time. We ended up leaving the next day. They didn't kick us out that night. You know, Alvaro came by. We kind of figured it all out. The guys that were changing the locks to the door, turned out they were just pretending to change the locks to intimidate us. So they didn't even really do that in the end. So we scrambled it together. We moved in with those girls we had called earlier, and the next day we moved was the day that our little kitten at 8 months old decided to go into heat and escape. So we lost our cat in that transition as we were moving to the new place, and so I was inconsolable for weeks at the new place, just crying. We lost our cat. She was so sweet. We were meant to take care of her. And the new place was probably like a 15-minute drive from our old place. And then, like 3 weeks after we moved there, I was walking down the street. I had keys on my belt always, like kind of classic lesbian style from the 90s, keys on a carabiner. So I always made a certain sound when I was walking. And I heard this little like meow, meow on the walls around where I was walking. Like every house there had like a big cement wall to keep people out, and cats would always like traipse around the walls. And I look up, and there is our little cat Macy. She had somehow figured out where we were and or just rambled in the neighborhoods until she found us, and she was following me on the wall all the way back to our new house. So we ended up collecting her, which was great.
Oh. Did she have kittens?
Oh, she came back pregnant, that's for sure. Yeah, she left in heat, and she came back and had kittens, which we all found little homes for. But that's my story, and I'm afraid it was very rambling. But...
No, not at all. I just can't believe, though. I mean, like, that's a scary situation when Mexican federales are in your kitchen and they're playing tricks. I mean... somebody's pretending to change a lock, somebody's pretending to say this or that, and it just sounds like a scary situation. And then they were there for so long. Like that
they
never
were there
would
for
have
so long.
happened in the States. That never would have happened in the States.
I mean, I think it happened in part, too, because I was so naive that I just kept talking to them. And my Spanish was quite bad, so it probably took us a while to understand each other.
Yeah.
And I really didn't understand what was happening. I was like, oh, okay. Once we got the drugs out of the place, I was like, oh, the helpers are here.
Yeah, well, no, that was muy importante because you do not want drugs on you in any form in Mexico.
It was so scary.
Seriously, people disappear. They don't, who knows what goes on? It's really frightening.
I was just going to say I had a huge lesson that day because our friend Alvaro, who, like I said, was Colombian but had been practicing law in Chicago, he made so much fun of us after that, where he was just like, you guys are idiots. He's like, him, growing up as a person of color in Chicago, he was like, the police aren't there to help you. Like, of course you, little white girl would think that, but he'd always been healthily skeptical of men in uniforms,
How old were you guys at that time?
Just early 20s, probably.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, right? And I've done so many stupid things, too. I mean, not that was stupid, but you know what I mean? Like, I look back
it was
and
very
I'm like,
stupid.
Oh, my God, I should have died like 10 times. Like, I did so many stupid things. But when you're that age, you just can't comprehend that somebody would have ill will toward you. You know what I mean? You come out of... I mean, I guess it depends on how you grow up, but a lot of times, especially in your early 20s, if you're privileged in any way, which a lot of us being white are, you don't realize that there's actually evil out there. And so you have such a bright and shiny face, you just, you have to experience it before you get it.
Yeah, I think, and when thinking back, it's like my kind of bumbling naivete must have been funny to them, and like,
they were having a blast. That's probably they talked about you for months. I'm sure of it, and
definitely threw a wrench in the works of them trying to intimidate us because we were just like, kind of just couldn't be intimidated because we didn't really understand the stakes of what was happening or what could happen.
The chairs are funny, too. Did you guys take those to your new place then?
Oh, absolutely. We had those chairs in our new place, and then when we moved again, we had those chairs. In the end, it was 4 chairs. And I don't know why. Maybe just because they were the easiest thing we could take and maybe the only thing we could take.
The only thing there. Yeah, it was like the only thing, and you were getting booted. So did you feel sad that you were leaving those children, or did you have any feelings about then they lost their teacher?
I mean, a little bit, but I also had a job at another school, so it was just kind of like...
So fuck those kids?
Fuck those kids, fuck that school. What are you going to do?
Oh, it's interesting. How long did you guys stay down there?
Well, I stayed in San Cristobal for about a year, and then I moved to Puerto Vallarta, where I was for another few years. Jody and I broke up at the end of that year, and she stayed down there, I think, for 2 years in total.
Wow. And
Yeah.
why did you go to Puerto Vallarta? Were you working on the Love Boat?
Yeah, I was working on the Love Boat, so it was important for me to be there. Yeah, Puerto Vallarta is just gorgeous, lots of work as an English teacher because, it's such a tourist town that people they don't need to know English, but they have a lot more opportunities if they do know English working in a tourist town like that. So there's a lot of, and it's just at the beach, just a lovely place, really.
Yeah, I bet. Is it a city? Is Puerto Vallarta a city?
I don't know the difference between a city and a town. There's one of everything,
Well, how Waikiki is definitely a city in Honolulu.
Okay.
I'm not sure. Like Waikiki Beach, it's in the city,
Right.
I think. Well, I don't know.
It doesn't. There's public transit and there's infrastructure, but it doesn't feel like a city. Really, It feels like a cute little town on the beach.
And so then you go there. By the way, I taught English in the Peace Corps. That's what I did overseas
cool.
as well.
Yeah,
because I was certified as ESL. Is that what you did? ESL?
Yeah, pretty
English
much.
second language. Yeah.
Yeah,
And so
I think they started calling it EFL just to account for the people who might already know 2 or 3 languages.
So what is it? English as a
Foreign language.
foreign language? Interesting.
Yeah, because
I thought you were going to say English as a 4th language.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, but, because people might already know 1 or 2. But especially in San Cristobal, it was fascinating because some of my students, were of Mayan heritage, or they spoke Tzotzil, or they spoke something else, and then Spanish was their second language, and then on top of that,
Stunning.
They're figuring out
it's
English.
Stunning, and English is by far the hardest language. I mean, it's just we have so many words that mean the same thing. It must be so confusing.
Yeah, there's a lot of bullshit in English.
Oh, so much. It's just crazy. Okay, so then you leave Mexico. I'm just curious because you've done so many cool travels. Where else did you go? Anywhere else cool?
Well, I've lived so I grew up in upstate New York, and then in my early 20s, I moved to Mexico, and then I skipped back over the States and moved to Canada after that, moved to Montreal. So, at this point in my life, I've spent longer outside the U.S. than in the U.S.
It's so funny. So you kept traversing the U.S., you kept doing the Continental Divide, the north to south.
Yeah.
You kept going from Mexico to Canada, L.A.
Yeah.
Canada.
I was a disaffected youth, and honestly, when George W., as in my mind, stole the state of Florida in the year 2000, I was like, I'm out of here. I'm not coming back. And that's really how it turned out. I moved to Mexico for many years, and then I moved to Canada. And I only came back to the U.S. in 2020 under the Trump presidency during a pandemic. Amazing timing.
Gosh. It's just the wildest thing, man. It is just wild. Yeah, it really is. It's something else. Well, I'm so happy to have found your Twitter feed. Like I said, I started following you on Twitter, and then hooked up with you. You followed me, and it's just great. I love it. I love meeting new friends, and when people look down on social media or poo-poo it, it's like, are you crazy? You're missing out on being social. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I love it. I met my girlfriend through an Instagram DM slide, and
oh, that's so sweet.
and now here we are in Canada, so it can happen.
Oh, well, I'm excited for you guys, man. You must be in just an absolutely beautiful place. Send me a picture out the window sometime.
Oh my God, I will. Yeah, there's a river in my
email.
backyard right now.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. I bet it's exquisite. Wow. I'm happy for you. No, I have a friend who just went down to Hawaii for 2 months, and she's just going to work her regular job, but she's going to do it in Hawaii, or she's doing it in Hawaii.
Yeah.
And it just starts making me think wait a minute. I mean, I can't go far because of my child, but I'm just saying it's still such a concept to just, why am I paying this rent in LA? Question.
I know.
Do you know
That's
what I
kind of
mean?
where I was at too. But it's also worth thinking about, there are people in New York or there are people in other places who would love to be able to be in LA for 2 months and do their regular jobs,
Yeah.
with the sunshine.
Okay, so maybe somebody should house swap with me. Who wants to house swap? You get an 8th grader. She comes for free. Come on over. All right, you guys, I'm going to wrap it up. I want to thank you so much for listening today. Make sure you check out all of DeAnne's socials at DeAnneSmith.com and also over there on Twitter at DeAnne_Smith. And let them know that you liked their story, and also follow me over there on Twitter as well at Storyworthy. All right, you guys, one more time on behalf of the very talented DeAnne Smith. What a treat. And I'm so happy I found you. I looked at your YouTube stuff for hour and a half. You got a lot of content.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, you have a lot of content. Very funny stuff.
Oh, that's good to
Really,
know.
and it like all stands the test of time. Like I said, I was looking at stuff from 2012, laughing my butt off. Really.
I'm really happy to hear that.
All right, you guys, one more time on behalf of the very talented DeAnne Smith. Thank you so much again. I appreciate it, DeAnne.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
My name is Christine Blackburn, saying, make it a story-worthy week.
Thanks for joining us on the Storyworthy Podcast. We'll be back next week with all new stories. Subscribe to Storyworthy on iTunes and visit the Storyworthy website at storyworthypodcast.com.
You're finally at that hot new spot, the one your friends keep raving about, sitting across from your date. It's going
Another round?
really well. And that dish you've been dying to try, oh, it's headed your way. You can smell it, hear it sizzling fresh off that skillet as it comes closer, closer, and served. Go ahead, enjoy. After your phone sneaks a bite first. When you're with Amex, it's not if it's going to happen, but when. American Express. Don't live life without it.
Right now, you can get free carpet installation from the Home Depot. So while we're putting in your new carpet, you'll have more time to take care of the lawn. Get started on dinner. Or just lay down and relax on your new carpet after it's installed. Get your free carpet installation started with the Home Depot. How doers get more done. Minimum purchase of $4.99. Exclusions apply. U.S. only. See store for details.
Breast milk science. It's a thing. And it's our thing. We're ByHeart. We're an infant formula company on a mission to get a lot closer to the most super food on the planet, breast milk. Our patented protein blend has more of the important and most abundant proteins found in breast milk. We're the first and only U.S.-made formula to use organic, grass-fed whole milk, not skim. We make our formula in our own factories in Iowa, Oregon, and Pennsylvania, using a small batch manufacturing process that works to preserve the integrity of our ingredients. We ran the largest clinical trial by a new infant formula company in 25 years and clinically proved benefits like easier digestion, less gas, and softer poops versus a leading infant formula. We were the first infant formula company to earn the Clean Label Project Purity Award. And while we've put a lot into ByHeart, there's a long list of things you won't see on our ingredient list, like no corn syrup, no maltodextrin, no GMO ingredients, no soy, no palm oil. ByHeart, a better formula for formula. Learn more at byheart.com.